Good morning and welcome to today's live webinar, Managing Away Bad Maintenance Habits. We're Eagle Technology. We're a CMMS company and we work with quite an amount of customers, and we've seen a lot of their bad habits get in the way of success. So we've worked with Harry Cohol, our Eagle Technology VP of Business Development. He's going to go over some of the bad habits that we've come across in the industry, and he's going to take you through and even ask you some questions to interact with so that we can see how do we manage away these bad habits. And we'll also have a part two series where we're going to look at some of the repercussions of these bad habits and what they could actually financially and business-wise cost your business if you don't manage them away. Then there is going to be a time for some questions if you have any questions at the end. Otherwise, you can visit our website at www.eaglecmms.com. Under the resource tab is where you'll find all our webinar recordings. And if you also have any suggestions of webinars that you'd like us to cover, please feel free. There's an email at the end of this presentation that will contain an email address. It's webinars@eaglecmms.com if you want to make any suggestions. So I'm going to hand over to Harry. Harry?
Oh, good morning, everyone. So this morning, I want you to use your chat bar at the below where you can type in a message. And I'd like you to tell me what is the bad habit that affects you the most in your organization. Okay? So if you'll use your chat and type in and send that to us, we'll compile them. We won't talk about you specifically. In fact, we're going to be doing a follow-up webinar on various bad habits and how they affect people in maintenance. Dr. Deming said that 85% of the reason for failure are deficiencies in systems and processes rather than the employee. And the role of management is to change the process rather than badgering individuals to do better. And so we talk about habits. We're talking about processes that engender bad habits. Okay? So I've gotten some input from the audience, and we appreciate that. If you're having trouble typing in your response, go ahead and type in the chat panel below what your habit or bad habit that's affecting your organization is affecting you. And then think about what would have to happen to change that habit. And we'll talk about that today. So if you have any idea at this point, again, go to your chat bar in the message area and type it in. So one of the habits or bad habits that we run across constantly when we deal with new prospects and customers is that they're basically in firefighting mode. They don't have time to do preventive maintenance. They don't have time to get their stock rooms organized. They don't have time, but they're constantly firefighting. And this is a habit. And if you've ever read the 7 Habits of Effective People or 7 Habits, any of the 7 Habits books by Covey, effectiveness is the balance of obtaining desirable results with caring for what produces those results, okay? So when we talk about habits, we're talking about finding a balance. And, you know, we're all human, and it's easy to continue doing what we do the way we do it every day. And firefighting has become a way of life for a lot of maintenance organizations. We run to the most important thing at the moment, we fix it, and then we run to the next most important thing. And basically what we need to do is figure out what values are governing our behavior. We want to do a good job, right? The value of doing the best we can for our employer is something that we constantly strive for. We want to do a great job, but we have to break the cycle. You know, we have to start thinking with the end in mind, as Covey would say. If we are constantly firefighting, we never get to the preventive work, we never get to predictive work, we just continue firefighting and spending our time in maintenance doing what we need to do. If we're talking about 5S, and a lot of people that signed up for this are interested in 5S, if we are firefighting, in other words, we take the part, we fix, we leave lay, when we do those types of things, we never find the time to do things correctly, to put the part back where it belongs, to organize the parts. We just don't have time, right? So when we look at habits, we have to learn how do we break that cycle. One of the things, the key points to breaking the cycle is training in removing a bad habit. We have to identify who owns the training. What's the reward for doing things correctly? What's the reward for getting the job done in a better sequence? And what can I do as an individual to break that cycle, break that bad habit, right? We have to, we can't accept the normalization of deviance in our daily culture. We have to leverage big data to drive improvements and gain process visibility. But if we're doing that firefighting, if we're engendering the bad habits, we'll never get there. We have to identify our business goals. We've always done it this way isn't going to fly anymore because it's too much of a competitive environment. We have to have key performance indicators that are indicative of importance of what we do and how we do it in our business. Our mean time to repair is a key performance indicator. Our mean time between failures. Our what percentage of time are we spending on what type of work? Those are all things that we need to measure and manage against. How much PM versus corrective maintenance am I doing? How much unplanned downtime do I have? Those are important things to leverage data around. And if we're just firefighting, we'll never look at the data. We can't allow ambiguous processes because that engenders poor performance. Do you have your processes documented? In the old days, Joe knew what to do and did it. But now it's Joe and 5 other people, and we need to make sure that the process is consistent, that it's documented, and that we expect quality in everybody's work that they do. Again, beginning with the end in mind, is that a good process? Because is it an easy process? Does it meet the corporate goals? Our values govern our behavior, Covey says, and we need to make sure that our values are in sync with the behavior that we're exhibiting. Historically, we find that habits result because people are not confident enough in their ability to let others grow. In other words, part of everybody's responsibility is to help each other grow in the way they perform and grow in the way that they are able to perform from a talent and adaptation standpoint. It's never wise to have someone do a job or give them responsibility without giving them authority. So if you find yourself in a position with a responsibility but no authority, there's a communication gap that needs to be resolved. If you're not growing the talent in your organization through technical schools or through on-the-job training, your company is going to lose in the end. And that's a very bad habit in today's environment because there's a shortage, as we all know, of highly qualified people. So we need to not keep that knowledge hidden within ourselves. If we know something, we need to effectively share that knowledge so that other people can grow and be productive within the organization. And then we need to look at structure of processes. Maintenance organizations should focus on instituting structured meeting cadence and good reporting habits. And using Proteus from Eagle Technology is a good way to help capture that information, of course. You know, not accepting responsibility is a bad habit. Not promoting ownership is a bad habit. And we've seen that in organizations as well. And the not my fault, not my problem syndrome is one that many, many organizations need to think about overcoming. In today's competitive environment, it's a habit that needs to be broken. We need to each accept responsibility. We need to have our peers accept the responsibility for their work, and our contractors. I've walked into buildings where the telephone closet or the wiring closets are just full of clippings at the bottom, and that's indicative of somebody that allows a building to be poorly maintained. Or if I go into the mechanical room and the floors are dirty and rags are strewn across things, those are bad habits that need to be broken. Cleanliness, they say, is next to godliness, but it also ties into the effectiveness of an entire organization. If I don't clean up after myself, if I don't expect my peers to keep their workplace clean, if I don't put parts back where they belong, it's a detriment on a daily basis to the organization. We talk about 5S, and if you've never worked with 5S, we do at Eagle Technology teach on-site classes. They're 1 week long. We come out, we help you, and you help yourself as a part of the class sort, set in order, shine, standardize, and sustain. Typically, we go into organizations and there's a immediate cost savings through the identification of obsolete parts and scrap of many times in the neighborhood of $50 to $75 to $100,000 at a minimum of cost savings. We free up space. We get parts organized. We teach you the red tag technique. Okay. We help organize, and believe it or not, that whole process sets a tone for the company. It's not just about the maintenance department that comes through them. It's a process that we teach the entire organization. I've been in 5S companies companies that practice 5S throughout, where at the shift change, each operator pulls out rags, they're cleaning the machine, they're cleaning the workspace, they're setting away tools that they've used, putting them in order in the drawers. It's a sight to behold. And if your organization isn't a 5S organization, you're not being competitive in today's market, very honestly. 5S is not an option in today's world. 5S is the standard. And again, if you need help, contact Eagle. We'll be happy to put our experts on site with your people and teach you the 5S process. If you don't have a 5S process in place, it's a habit that needs to be adopted. There's good habits and bad habits in every organization. And 5S is one of those good habits that needs to be engendered so that you can stay competitive in the world that we live in today. And it's one of those sharpen the saw functions. If you don't learn, if you don't improve yourself, your organization, you're not going to stay competitive in today's marketplace. They'll find people or vendors that make the products that you do that do practice these, and they'll find that they're cheaper, better products, etc. So that this is something that you need to seriously consider. Now, I know most people don't listen with the intent to understand. They listen with the intent to reply. So I've got a chance for you to reply today. I've got a question for you, and I'm going to ask Barbara to put those questions out. So Barbara, would you put the poll?
So the polls up right now is lack of daily 5S something that bugs you. You can select either yes or no.
And if you'd be so kind as to respond to the poll, we'd appreciate it.
Okay, so far we have a 94% saying yes and 6% saying no.
So 6% of our audience today apparently is well versed in 5S and they practice it. 94% of you don't either practice it or it's not practiced consistently in your organization. So again, if we can help in any way, shape, or form, please feel free to contact us. And Barbara, would you put the next question out, please?
Have you read any of the 7 Habits books? Yes or no?
Okay. If you haven't voted,
very interesting. 35% says yes and 65% says no.
Okay. Thank you for voting. So I talked today, and I'm repeating what I already know and I have experienced, okay? But if you're listening today, hopefully you've learned something new from me. We're going to do a follow-up webinar on habits and 5S and touch on some of these questions to a greater extent and how CMMS integrates and helps with those habits and how can I overcome, go from firefighting on a daily basis to actually going to proactive maintenance and how can I get 5S implemented in my organization. And if you have any individual questions, you can type them in now, and Barbara will pass them along to me. Or you can email us at webinars@eaglecmms.com, and we'll be happy to work with you one-on-one. But the key is to understand that a habit can be changed. It takes effort. It takes cooperation. It might take a lot of communication and practice to change a habit. You may have to look at data. For example, not understanding the importance of bill of materials in a manufacturing environment is a bad habit. Letting planners get involved in reactive maintenance is a very important position, and letting planners step into reactive planning is a bad idea. Okay, according to a lot of authors, planners must be in front of the work, not behind it. Planning from behind a desk, a bad idea. And again, looking at your processes, not quantifying the process. I worked with a client recently where one individual had 16 hours of PMs a day scheduled. Well, that individual only works 8 hours, so there's no way they can possibly plan 16 hours of PMs. Either the estimated times on the PMs are off, or they're definitely going to be behind on a daily basis. So planning PMs, understanding processes, understanding the workers' availability, these are all things that, we allow to occur. We allow them to be habits. We need to change. And we're human. It's easy to let the habit continue. It takes work and effort and identification to say, this is bad. We need to change. And work as a team to make that change happen. So I thank you very, very much for your time today. If there's anything that I can do any questions I can answer, I'm happy to do so. Otherwise, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Harry, for your time as well. And an email will be sent to all our attendees today with a recording of this webinar. If you're interested in sharing it, you're more than welcome to do so. And like Harry said, if there's any questions or suggestions, always feel free to email us. Thank you very much.